Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, gaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. This is live show 1188. If you're not overly familiar with the stream, let me point out it's super, super casual around here. Just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then I will usually pontificate about a topic related to our hobby, which I will not be doing tonight. Just I didn't really have time to come up with anything. If you watched last night, you knew that I had to take my mom to a doctor's appointment today, and I got back here about 45 minutes ago. So, because we actually had to go to a doctor. She's got that macro degenerative thing with your eyesight. So she's having injections done, and it is not nearby. So didn't really, have anything planned as far as a topic. So we'll just chat after the news. But still, once again, we're not engaged in rocket surgery or anything along those lines. Just hanging out, having some fun. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. Come on, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Of course, if you would like to support the Gaming Gang, we do have a Patreon. You'll find that link down in the show notes. And be sure to hang with the gang over on our Discord server. Yes, there is an invite link also in those show notes. And of course, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. You must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 whole minutes before you can take part in chat. And of course, if that is the case and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, fire away. Plus, if there's something you want to talk about after the news, get ready to toss that at me. Not right this minute, but when we get past the news, we can do that as well. All right, so first out the gate tonight is the Madman. Also, Robert Santin, Semper Buffo, Freddie P, Kathy Evans, Keith Ulhu, W Forge, Matthew Perkins. I think I have said hello to everybody who has popped up in chat. There you go, Macular Degeneration. Thank you, Keith Ulhu. And, of course, I wouldn't be surprised if the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is also hanging around in the shadows. She's also another one of our chat moderators alongside the Madman. So howdy, everybody. Game Cat and Chris Lundgren are also popping on in. Chris Lundgren and his cockatiel buddy. Don't leave Buddy out. Tessie Trekkie is also jumping on in. Says, howdy, Jeff. How much medicine would a woodchuck doctor if a woodchuck could doctor medicine? I don't know, but I can tell you they are now using the second of the 3 available shots to help with that, because I guess the first really didn't do anything. So my mom is very concerned because she has to renew her driver's license in October. And the way things are going right now, That is not going to happen. Her days of driving might be over. Kind of wild. Kind of wild. All right, so let's jump on into the news because arriving in stores next week is Age of Vikings from Chaosium Inc. And I've got the skinny. Hear the call of glory and honor. Journey proud across your land, free from the tyranny of kings and queens. Enter the Age of Vikings. In the Age of Vikings role-playing game, you are transported to medieval Iceland, a vibrant land on the edge of the known world, where Vikings seek honor and fame through adventure. Age of Vikings is a standalone game built with Chaosium's basic role-playing universal game engine. This rulebook contains the hero creation rules, including passions, family history, and ever-important Icelandic nicknames. The book also has rules for the basic role-playing system as used in Age of Vikings, including skills, conflict resolution, and hero development. Age of Vikings covers the history of mythic Iceland in minute detail. The book outlines the life of a Viking, laws and government, religion, and the wild and wondrous creatures of legend. Take to the frigid seas with extensive rules for ships and seafaring, including naval combat. No other role-playing game so effortlessly thrusts you into one of the most fabled cultures and time periods in history. This meaty tome includes a guide to Icelandic magic, rules for combining different Norse runes to cast powerful spells, and the shamanic practice of seer. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. Also within is a full bestiary of enemies, both magical and mundane, including an extensive section on the mysterious hidden people. This complete role-playing game also includes an introductory adventure designed for first-time players and characters. This adventure, the Alping, can be used multiple times in a campaign and comes with a suite of ready-to-play heroes. I thought that was kind of interesting. It can be utilized multiple times. This 312-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $59.99 when it arrives in stores on May 21st. I'm going to expect the PDF to be available at Drive-Thru RPG probably right around the same date. It's not out just yet. And I will take a stab. It's going to be $29.99. I do not know if we're going to see this. I mean, as a review copy, I probably need to reach out to my contacts to see if they are planning on sending one along. But, weirdly enough, Chaosium Inc. hasn't noticed the review for the Pendragon Game Master's Guide yet. Because normally they will repost that on all of their social media. Have not seen that yet. So I'm like, okay, all right. Maybe their marketing person is on vacation or something. Don't know. I do not know. But if I ask, it's our pals at Chaosium Inc. They're going to send this along. All right, we've got a few more folks popping on into chat. Yes, Sarah D is hanging with the gang tonight. So let's see. Pete Strakulich is with us, as is Julio Santiago. Let's see. Kevin R. Smith just popped in. I thought there was somebody else that I had missed. Very cool. Very cool. Chris Leonard says, Mazes and Minotaurs, they found out, has an entire Viking setting for free. So they tried rating it, was bored. Are they the only ones? Interesting. Isn't Mazes and Minotaurs now for Savage Worlds? Or is that something else? I thought there was, maybe it's not. Maybe it's, what is it? Something in Odysseys, something like that. That was kind of a standalone fantasy role-playing game, but it was, Greek mythology. And then not too long ago, they actually kickstarted their own edition in it for Savage Worlds. So I bet you the Madman can tell us what the deal is there, because he's kind of our Savage Worlds expert on hand. Matthew Perkins says, big fan of Chaosium. Them, along with Ghostfire, are heaps active in Australia. I'm not familiar with Ghost. You know, the name's ringing a bell. Ghostfire Games or Ghostfire Gaming. But off the top of my head, I can't remember what they do. I don't know. Kevin R. Smith says, they think they know what I'm talking about. Can't think of the exact game. But Kevin says they backed the Kickstarter. They think. That's kind of funny. That's pretty wild. There we go. Odysseys and Overlords. Thank you, the Madman. That's the one that was its own. I think it was like a D20 game. And then they decided they were going to adopt the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition for their rules. Moving on to our next news piece, now available for pre-order, is More Prepared for Tales of the Valiant. I've got the lowdown from Kobold Press. Did game night sneak up on you again? Again? Are your players ignoring your carefully laid plots to follow their new favorite NPC around? More Prepared is here with plenty of solutions to your problem. These 30 low-prep, one-shot adventures for the Tales of the Valiant and 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons role-playing games fit seamlessly into your campaign. Adventurers will rescue survivors in the heart of a malfunctioning magical prison, travel the Whitewater through a subterranean war zone, save a wedding from a crashing bronze dragon, explore a crumbling village with a serious doll problem. Ooh, I wonder, like that haunted island with the dolls. You know what I'm talking about? You know that is super, super creepy. Confront the delightfully mischievous daughter of Dib. More on Dib in just a second. And much more. This collection also includes detailed maps from cartographer Tommy Salama, featuring adventures for levels 1 through 15. More Prepared is the ultimate collection to turn your next no-prep game night into a legendary success. You can always be more prepared. The 196-page hardcover with PDF arrives June 18th, carries an MSRP of $49.99. And I will tell you, it is in transit right now to me. So we're going to be able to get to review it. Sweet. So if you are curious, if you recall, there's Prepared and there's Prepared 2. And then there was Prepared the Extended Collection, which I reviewed. This is, as far as I know, all new adventures. So these are not the adventures from those two releases and then the combined release adapted for Tales of the Valiant, to my knowledge. Now, I will mention I cheated and included a couple of images from one of the Prepared releases previously because I didn't have enough images to make up 5. So the first 3 are now, I take that back. I only used 1. Because the first 4, because I forgot, I'm including the cover of the book. Okay, so the image you're looking at right now, okay, that's from an earlier Prepared book. But I have to laugh because they indicate there's an adventure with the daughter of Dib. And Dib, if I remember correctly, Dib is a goblin. And there are a few adventures with Dib and his clan, and they are pretty funny. They are pretty entertaining, I would say. And okay, I take that back. They appear to me that they will play out as very entertaining adventures because this Dib is one of these goblins who he's the leader and he's just has an overinflated sense of importance and things like that. So there you have it. So Chris Leonard had asked, did Kobold Press ever make its own role-playing game system, which Kevin R. Smith has kindly provided the answer to? Yes, Tales of the Valiant. Or do they only do stuff for 5th edition? They used to do Pathfinder 1st edition stuff too. In fact, going back quite a ways, I think they were more a Pathfinder 1st edition publisher who would also release some of their items for 5e than nowadays. Because I don't think I have seen a release for Pathfinder in years. I don't know. So yes, stay tuned because I actually have another item regarding Tales of the Valiant we're going to talk about after the news. All right, so let's talk about saving you some money because Open-Ended Games is teamed with Bundle of Holding for an offer featuring the Against the Dark Master role-playing game. And I've got the deets on the deal. Adventure. This new Against the Dark Master bundle presents, well, you guessed it, Against the Dark Master, the tabletop fantasy role-playing game from Open-Ended Games of epic adventure and heavy metal combat. Funded in an October 2019 Kickstarter campaign, Against the Dark Master, abbreviated versus D or versus Dark Master, adapts old school percentile systems, specifically MERPs, which for the uninformed was Middle Earth role playing, to support grand sagas in this style of Tolkien, The Wheel of Time, Labyrinth, and Dragon Slayer. Stories of a fellowship of heroes standing together against overwhelming evil. Using rules aimed at creating epic quests with detailed travel mechanics for long overland adventures, you'll travel to distant lands, face terrible dangers, uncover ancient items of power, and gather the armies of the world under your banner to defeat an ultimate menace. What menace specifically? Well, that's up to your group of players. You launch your VSD campaign by rolling on or choosing from several charts that collectively define a dreadful and immensely powerful being who seeks to plunge the world into darkness. The rulebook describes 3 examples: the Horned King of Anwin, the Witch Queen of Despair, and the Blood Lord of War. Whether an eldritch horror or devious war master, a tempter or sower of discord, a herald of death or Fimbulwinter, the weaver of lies, the god of entropy, the unborn spirit, whatever his nature and epithet, the Dark Master commands ruinous powers, hordes of servants, and corrupting magic. He has no game statistics and cannot be directly fought, but a prophecy tells of this entity's downfall. The heroes can find the coveted artifact that is his bane. This new Against the Dark Master bundle presents much of the line. Everything you need for a full-scale campaign of good against evil, of courage and sacrifice, and a struggle that will transform the world for an unbeaten bargain price. For just $7.95, you'll get all 3 titles in the starter collection, which has a retail value of $33.50, as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete 574-page Against the Dark Master core rules, plus the short introductory adventure Heartbane, as well as the Game Master screen. And if you pay more than the current threshold price of $18.86, which I'm going to assume has changed by a few cents right now, you'll level up and also get the entire bonus collection with 9 more titles worth an additional $57, including the 355-page rules expansion Secrets of the Golden Throne, 2 full-length adventures, The Silence of Dawnfell and Legacy of Blood, and 6 sets of printable core spell cards for easy reference, key to these spellcasting classes: Animist, Champion, Common and Kin, Dabbler, and Wizard, plus new spells which were included in Secrets of the Golden Throne. These savings run through May 26th. Well. I'm curious. I have never taken a look against the Dark Master. One of the reasons why is because to me, now I don't know, but to me, it always felt like, okay, so they took MERPs and just filed all the serial numbers off and then released the role-playing game with those mechanics, which sort of reminded me of Zweihander. I don't know if that's exactly how you pronounce it. Zweihander also kind of came across that way too. So now I did review the starter set that Zweihander came out with, and that was actually pretty good. I was kind of surprised, but I don't know. I have a thing about games that have been like out of production. They're, long dead, being resurrected, like the James Bond role-playing game that I always talk about. Wow, I'd love to see that get picked up. But I guess it is available kind of the same way. All the serial numbers are filed off. There's no mention of Bond or anything like that. I don't know. Anybody in chat familiar with Against the Dark Master? I'm kind of curious. So Chris Lundgren asks, is this game system easy to learn? Well, we're going to talk about the game that actually gave birth to Middle-earth role-playing, which then, of course, gives birth to Against the Dark Master in just a couple of moments. And then I will talk about how easy that system is, or at least how easy that system was back in the day. So there you have it. Pretty decent bundle here. You can get on board, get the core rulebook in Introductory Adventure and the GM screen for $7.95. Not too bad. Coco B is with us in chat. We've had a few people popping on in here. So they played a couple of sessions of Against the Dark Master. Too many knobs, switches, and levers, or levers, we'll say. Fairly crunchy. I prefer lighter systems. That's what I thought, too. Okay, so let's jump back real quick. Let's see. Wallona's Cave is with us in chat. Sean O'Donnell is also popped on in. And, of course, I just mentioned Coco B. Chris Leonard says, the art is very cool. Yeah, not too bad. Not too shabby. From what I had seen with some of the items that are in this bundle. Moving right along, the 5th issue of Twisted Tales for Shadow Dark has landed in PDF, and I've got the scoop from Burning Light Press. Welcome to the 5th installment of Twisted Tales, a Shadow Dark zine filled with dubious characters, deadly creatures, and regions overrun with turmoil and wickedness. This issue offers the sandbox region of Corvale with 22 cursed locations across the horror-ridden domain, 9 new monsters, scores of encounters, and treasure tables, as well as a horde of NPCs and quest prompts for your party, alongside some awesome character artwork. The 35-page zine with PDF can be had over at Drive-Thru RPG. Of course, it's a soft cover. It's only $4.99. If you want to score just the PDF alone, you can do so for $2.99. Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too shabby at all. And I know a lot of folks out there are always, scanning the horizons for new Shadow Dark stuff. Now, granted, this is the 5th issue, so this zine has been out for a while, but not this issue. This is brand new. So, as I pointed out before, I know some people don't think I tackle that much independent stuff. I actually do. I really do. I try to give you at least one solid news piece, and there's usually far more than just one, about good old indies out there. Speaking of a company that would be considered an independent, Now available in PDF from Iron Crown Enterprises, who are the creators of Middle-earth role-playing, is the first volume of Creature Law for Rolemaster Unified, as well as other fantasy role-playing games. Here's what I know. For over 4 decades, Rolemaster has been the definitive fantasy role-playing game that combines realism and depth without sacrificing playability. Keep in mind, their words, not mine. Rolemaster Unified is the next evolution, drawing upon the best elements of previous editions to create a streamlined and consistent game. Rolemaster Creature Law 1 provides the creatures and monsters that players will encounter and oppose. This first volume of Creature Law offers well over 400 creatures, created with the same fundamentals as characters, but streamlined with the use of archetypes. Creature Law 1 details for each their abilities, skills, and stats in the same terms as characters, with the addition of 225 new talents and flaws reflecting creature abilities and weaknesses, including fiery breath, petrifying gaze attacks, acid coatings, ink glands, extra limbs, shape-changing, echolocation, and present senses, and many more. Of course, those are all talents, not flaws. Imperil the player characters with the very real threats of tigers and sharks, or lions and tigers and bears, oh my, or surprise them with dinosaurs believed extinct, or unearthly animals such as the jackalope. These dangers pale against the greater capabilities of griffins, minotaurs, demon whales, unicorns, and other legendary monsters. Encounters with dragons and their lesser fell kind of wyverns, lesser drakes, hydras, and basilisks will shape epic sagas. A variety of animated, poisonous, and entrapping plants will pose other sorts of challenges for even the most experienced adventurer. Artificial creations, whether construct, golem, gargoyle, or the incredibly fast shards, may prove implacable foes. Elementals and elementary infused creatures, such as the destructive Zephyr Hounds, claim the heart of the wilds as their own. Heroes may pit their blades and magic against Jinn and demons from other planes, fae from the diminutive Psyches and Sylphs and Pukas. Well, Harvey's in it. And Undines can be uncanny opponents, while Garks, giants, centaurs, and many others may be deadly rivals. And for beyond the grave, the unquiet dead. Skeletons, ghosts, ghouls, wraiths, and vampires seek sustenance and vengeance from the living. And finally, for the game master who wants to let the dice suggest the next challenge, Creature Law 1 offers encounter tables for each biome, plus encounters for underground, urban, and farmland locations, and easy-to-use indexes of creatures, talents, and tables. The 377-page PDF is available right now over at Drive-Thru RPG for $30. There you go. There you go. So, let's go back to the question from Chris Lundgren. Is this a rules-heavy sort of role-playing game? Because the question was about against the Dark Master, which is actually built off of Rolemaster. So Iron Crown, I was around when Arms Law, Claw Law, Spell Law all arrived on the scene, and they were actually designed to be actual kind of like tools for Dungeons and Dragons. So they were designed to make your combat a lot more it was a lot more lethal with specific critical hits, critical injuries. We had all these different charts and tables depending on the weapon you were using and the armor. And when we first picked it up, and I remember I picked it up, and if you happen to hang out and watch The Dispatch from time to time, you've probably seen my friend Scott Weigel, who I went to high school with. He also had picked up a copy too. And I remember we were thinking, wow, this is really cool. Until you tried to put it into play. Then it was like, not so much. So eventually it became a role-playing game. So it's Rollmaster. Rollmaster's been around for a long time. I will mention that ICE, Iron Crown Enterprises, reached out to me a few years ago with their last edition. And they were curious if I would review it. And I turned them down because that edition, the artwork was all that computer generated stuff that we saw that was like you could buy a computer program for your desktop or laptop and you could do this artwork that was just really, really awful. I hated it. I hated the artwork in it. And I said, no, thanks. It's like, because I didn't want to have to review something that had that god awful artwork. So I was like, yeah. As Tessie Trekkie says, Rule Master. Yes, that is essentially what a lot of people refer to it as. Now, just like GURPS, there are people out there who absolutely adore GURPS. They're like, oh, that's it. That's their all-time favorite. They don't want to play anything else. And then there are other people who are like, nah, I don't want the complexity. To my knowledge, now it's been a long time since I looked at either of these. To my knowledge, I think Rollmaster is actually crunchier than GURPS. And I think it's a little clunkier than GURPS. Just for my own past recollections, right? I haven't really taken a look. I haven't looked at GURPS in decades. But anywho, all right. So let's see. A few more people popping into chat. William Helhezias. It's always my guesstimation of the pronunciation is with us. And DB just popped on in. So Tessie Trekkie says, GURPS is relatively straightforward. Yeah, it is. It's a level of complexity I don't necessarily want in my games at this point in time. But I'll tell you what, before Steve Jackson Games hated me, way back in the day, I used to pick up GURPS stuff all the time. Now, we are talking like the 90s, late 90s, very early 2000s, more so 90s, because they always had like wild cards. I don't know how many of you out there are familiar with the Wild Card series, which is kind of what put George R.R. Martin on the map because he was the editor of it. And it was one of those shared universes like Thieves World, which I did not know Thieves World was out on audiobook. And I was like, oh my God, I think it's like the first 3 books. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get these. And then I listened to the sample and I was like, oh no. I was like, oh God, no. Because the narrator is just awful. Chris Leonard said, never played a Steve Jackson Games role-playing game, but love the card game version of Car Wars. I actually never played the Car Wars card game. Yes, Illuminati. I still have my copy. I wish I still had my original copy, but I've got the one that came in a little box. It was, I think it's in color, if I remember correctly. Yep, that's a cool game. Not easy for people to get into, but they're pretty decent. Beer Beard is with us. Welcome. I don't recognize the nickname, so it might be a first-time visit in chat with us. Genghis Vern is also popping on in. So, Bear Beard asks, how was the narrator awful? Very monotone. And they would read and then kind of take a pause, like in the middle of a sentence. It was very bland. And I was actually really kind of surprised. But I mean, there are some narrators out there who get work, and maybe it's just not my thing. We're actually going to talk a little bit about an audiobook once we go through our brief intermission tonight, because I was super excited to get it last night. We'll talk. Kevin R. Smith says, William Shatner without charisma then. Yeah, I guess so. Kingus Vern says, original Illuminati was brilliant. Very cool. Very nice. Yeah, like I said, I still have my copy. Oh, you know what? I think, because I have, okay, so I got the books behind me. You know that. I also have another shelf unit over here. I have 3 shelf units over here. And then I've got loads of boxes of games that I usually will be like selling and stuff like that. So Tessie Trekkie says, Illuminati, where the Boy Scouts of America can control Area 51 and through them soft drinks. Yes. And where the post office is very powerful, but it costs you money each and every turn. So, anyway, no, I was not going to go get it. Don't worry. I wasn't going to go get the Illuminati. I was just wondering where I had it, but now I realize where it's at. All right. So that's the news for tonight. Of course, I mentioned Drive-Thru RPG. Do not forget the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller Vault, maybe you're going to pop by Dungeon Masters Guild, Drive-Thru Comics, Drive-Thru Fiction, any of those, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And that goes a long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do have a Patreon. And the link to that is down in the show notes. Also, if you just want to make a one-time donation, you can do that. There's a link to PayPal. You want to buy me a bottle of soda? Oh, it's lovely. And if you want to hang with the gang, we also have a Discord server. So there is an invite link in the show notes to our Discord server. And there are some members-only channels of the Discord server, which is only open to those out there who are members of the Patreon at the $10 or higher tiers. And, well, I'm speaking of the $10 tier, I want to give a shout out to Tessie Trekkie, Dan Webb, Tier 2 DM, GameCat, Pete Strakulich, and Melodic Method. And tip of the caps to our $25 level supporters, the Madman and Agile Monk. So thank you very kindly, all of you. William says Jeff is immortal. Far from it. Chris Lenhorn says, Jeff, when you pass away, what are you going to do with all your games? Are they going to be passed on to anybody? I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. Simply because I don't think, well, I know my niece wouldn't want any of this stuff. My nephew Cameron probably would. Elliot's already got walls of games. And it's so funny because I always bring stuff to Gen Con to the auction, right? If it's just going to collect dust in my house, that's stupid. So why not get those games and game books and that into people's hands who are going to enjoy them, right? Play those games, stuff like that. So I said to Elliot, I said, hey, why don't you bring some stuff? Because he almost never would bring stuff to the auction. I think he's done it 2 or 3 times now. Now, he did it last year. And he's like, well, I sold a bunch of stuff on eBay and I don't really have anything. And then a couple of visits ago to his house, because we usually play at my brother's house, but I was over at his house and we were down in the basement and he had walls and walls of games. I was like, dude, how can you say you don't really have any games left to take to the auction? I'm like, look at all this. So he did. He brought some games with him. But as far as who's going to get this stuff, I'm sure it's all just going to get sold. It'll go into, like, I don't want to say an estate sale, but, like a garage sale sort of thing. That would be my guess as far as what happens. Although I like William say, Jeff's immortal. No, I'm sure that's not going to be the case. Chris Leonard said, someone said starting running role-playing games at their local seniors center or donate them there. But would seniors even play role-playing games? No, I would not. A lot of times what I'll do is I will take the GMT stuff and I will donate it to the VA. So there's a VA hospital that's not too far away. I used to, when I did more like kids games or family games, which it's been a long, long time since I did that. I used to actually take them to a children's hospital. This was actually out in Phoenix at the time when we were, mainly just reviewing board games and stuff like that. Because it was like, okay, so we played it, we reviewed it. And then it got to the point where I was like, I'm not talking like little kids games, because I would tell people, no, please don't send that. I don't have children. I don't have access to people's children for them to check the games out. So William says, senior citizens, too many wizards. They enjoy playing spin the bottle. Yeah. I hear all these stories, it's like, whoa. A lot of action for those folks, I guess. Well, hey, more power to them. I don't have any problem with that. All right. So tonight we don't have a topic. We're just going to kind of chat a little bit. If anybody wants to throw out any questions or anything like that, I have a couple of things I am going to talk about. But first, I think it's time. Well, let me double check. Let's see, I almost did. Almost did. I forgot to give you this. See, if you were watching last night, I had mentioned I got these new contacts. And for some strange reason, I like middle vision isn't all that good. So I have increased the font size on the browser. So I actually can see chat just fine. But because I had to do that, I've had to shrink down the OBS window. So usually I'll have like 4 or 5 scenes that are visible to me so I can watch as we're going. And now I get one. So like, wait, what? So Keith McGrath is with us. Welcome aboard. Matthew Perkins has a question. We will tackle that after a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Well, you see what I get from the refreshment counter. Oh, boy, popcorn and candy bars and ice cream and, oh, boy, sparkling ice-cold Coca-Cola. Oh, boy, that tastes good. Have you been to the refreshment counter?
Remember, your favorite snack will taste especially good with world-famous ice-cold Coca-Cola.
As soon as we can, let's flick our Bics.
That's all you ever want to do, but it's against the rules. And anyway, I'm hungry.
Now that you mention it, something to munch on will go great with the flick.
Just bring plenty of popcorn, soft drinks, and candy. Yum.
Are you sure that'll last you through the entire flick?
Maybe not. So order the large size of everything and get doubles.
Oh, gosh.
It's okay. The intermission's coming up. You won't miss a thing.
Yesterday is today. Men and women have found a wonderful way of life in our own Cascades. See the Cascades, bright and snow-topped, where the smooth streams bubble through the trees, down to valleys, warm and friendly, green fields ripening in the breeze. From the Cascade Valley harvest comes the beer, cool and bright as the mountain glades. For a blitz, you'll know the pleasure of the life in a great Cascade. Pour yourself a glass of the Cascades. Blitz.
Give me the eggs and no Wilkins coffee. Give him the eggs, boys. A meal without Wilkins is a mess.
I'm Vincent Price. You're invited to my party in the house on Haunted Hill, where so far the ghosts have murdered only 7 people. So won't you come and make it 8? There'll be food and drink and ghosts for all, and perhaps a few murders, perhaps yours. The ghosts are waiting, so won't you join me in the house on Haunted Hill? Hurry, or you'll be late for your own funeral.
A classic Vincent Price film. Yes. Keith Lewis says, William Castle was always a showman. You know what? I think there's actually a documentary about William Castle. Strangely enough, not too long ago, in fact, this was like last week, I watched a documentary about a director of exploitation films. And it was pretty interesting. And then he was murdered, and it was like straight out of one of his movies. It was super, super weird. I think it was Al Adamson was his name. I didn't really recognize the films that he had made, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. I thought it was pretty cool there. All right, so I will answer. Wasn't it Matthew? Yes, Matthew had a question. They guess I subscribe to a lot of email newsletters. Actually, I do not. I receive press releases. So publishers will normally send me their press releases, press kits, and stuff like that. Now, I will go and take a peek to see, hey, well, what's over on Drive-Thru RPG? Is there anything new and hot? And stuff like that. But I don't really get newsletters. But the question was, what separates a good tabletop role-playing game email newsletter from a bad tabletop role-playing game email newsletter? Well, I would think if the newsletter you receive is always just promoting their product, where it's just one sales blurb after another, after another, after another, I would consider that to be a bad newsletter, because it's really not news about the game or games. It's just simply telling you, hey, we're selling this, we're selling this, we're selling this, we're selling this. So please come buy them. We'll give you links. Click on the link. So Kevin R. Smith says, there was a house on Haunted Hill before the board game. It's not House on Haunted Hill, though, the board game. It's Betrayal at House on Hill, not House on the Hill. Every time I would have to say that title, it's like, who do I slap? It's not Betrayal at House on Hill. It's The Hill. Who the hell left out the? But yes, that's what I would say is a newsletter that provides you with some cool content, like maybe you get a free new monster stat block, or maybe it's talking about 10 tips to be a better game master, stuff like that. And then they mix in their stuff that's on sale. I would think that would be a far better sort of newsletter. But you know what? The reality is that's not how things operate anymore. It's like marketing people, many marketing people who are out there right now are essentially, they think marketing is putting their face out there on social media to advertise whatever their publisher is selling. That's what marketing is now. And that is not quality marketing. Which will lead me into another item, the one of the two I wanted to talk about. But before I forget, I went to see my cardiologist on Monday, just as a follow-up to the stress test and that. And I was reading, whenever I go to the doctor's office, I always bring a game book, because I'm always reading game books. And that way I can pass the time while I'm waiting and, get closer to knocking that review out, right? So my cardiologist in the past would always be like, oh, what are you reading? And she knows about the Gaming Gang. In fact, her son has watched some of the videos on the channel. So I had a book with me, and she comes in, she goes, oh, what are you reading this time? I said, oh, she said, oh, is it Dungeons and Dragons? I said, no. I said, it's for a different game. And she said, yeah, some of my friends that I went to school with, they want me to play Dungeons and Dragons with them because they always get together and play Dungeons and Dragons. So she asked, she said, do you think I should? I'm thinking, okay, you're a cardiologist. And of course, the people she went to school with, I'm sure, are all in medical fields, right? And I said, I'll tell you. I said, yeah, you should. She's like, well, I don't know. And I said, you should. Just go, have absolutely no preconceptions of what's going to happen. Be open-minded to just, have fun and, be involved in a fantasy story. I said, you might end up really enjoying yourself. She's like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it. And I was like, okay. So I thought that was kind of funny. It's like, oh, so my cardiologist is asking me if they should play Dungeons and Dragons. DB, yes, Frankenstein versus Dracula. That was it. That was it. There are a couple of times that I've been tempted to share the trailers for what is the one? Blood Freaks. And then I think the other one is something like 2000 Maniacs. And I'm like, yeah, even though the blood is super fake looking, I mean, it's still kind of. I'm like, yeah, I better not put that into one of the brief intermissions because I wouldn't want somebody to complain. But Robert Dennis is with us in chat. Welcome. Very nice to see you. I believe this might be a first-time visit in chat for Robert. Name's not jumping out. I apologize if you've been here multiple times. No, Keith McGrath said it was the first time they were popping on into chat. Very nice. So that was one of the things. Another thing I wanted to mention. So if you were watching last night, I said there's 2 companies I'm not going to share news of anymore. One of them, I'm not going to do anything yet. But if you follow the Gaming Gang and you also follow me on social media, you probably already have an idea of who it is. There's a company out there that I share news of all the time, and it's been about 5 years since I reviewed something from them. I reviewed one thing that they sent to me and gave it a really good review. It's a game you would know. And every time I kind of reach out, it doesn't go anywhere. And someone in chat, I think this is a couple weeks ago, it said, hey, Jeff, did you know XYZ company's got a new marketing person? You should reach out. They were on Facebook. So I did. And I got ignored. A few days went by and I was like, okay. So you know me, I call out bad behavior. And in my opinion, ignoring me reaching out is bad behavior, especially if I was just some slob who just came out of, I'm not saying I'm not a slob, but if I were just some slob who just came out of nowhere, who, you know, hey, I got a new channel, I got a new website, really want to review your stuff. Yeah, okay, I could see it. But for a company that I've shared news of constantly for about 12 years, to me, that's bad behavior. So I called them out on it on social media, and I shared it. I shared my displeasure on multiple social media outlets, and I got a message back, public message, saying, oh, Jeff, I sent you an email over the weekend. Check your spam folder. And I also run my email server, so I know exactly what hits my server. Even before my spam assassin goes off or I block emails because of, you know, keywords that are in them. I went and took a look, took a peek through my logs, nothing. There was nothing from this company, anybody from this company. So I messaged, hey, you know what? I don't have it. I checked my mail server because I operate my mail server. Nothing there. Could you please send the email again? Nothing. So I figure I'm going to give them to the end of the week. And then next week, if they've still just decided, and it's okay if they say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we just don't want you reviewing our stuff. That'd be fine. The funny thing is, I wasn't even asking to try to get review copies. I was asking for them to send me news of their releases rather than me finding out secondhand or having to go check out their website when I'm like in need of a news piece for the day. But if they said, you know, we don't like your style, I have absolutely no problem with that. I know I say it all the time. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. That's fine. I'm cool with that. But I'm not cool with reaching out to a company and then they just ignore you. And then, I don't know. Like I said, I checked the logs on my mail server. There was nothing from that company. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But there is a company that I am not going to share news for any longer. And I mentioned Kobold Press. We were talking about Kobold Press, Tales of the Valiant. So Kobold Press licensed Tales of the Valiant to Steamforged Games for them to make a starter set. I have shared news of the starter set multiple occasions. And have talked about how, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to get an opportunity to take a peek at it. So with Steamforged Games, they send an email announcing something, and then you have to click on a link and fill out a form, which I'm fine with. I have absolutely no problem with that. So the previous two releases that I was interested in, I got canned emails like the day they were like shipping, saying, "Oh, we've allotted all of our review copies." Yeah, okay, that's fine. One thing I didn't want were the Steamforged Games board games because they're pretty bad. They're not good at all, and that's why you might recall I shared a look at a couple of their games, and they were going to get negative reviews. I let them know, and they said, "Well, no, forget it. Don't." And I thought, well, that's kind of weird because everybody's knocking these games, so it's not like I'd be alone. So anyway, so I requested the starter set, and then I even sent an email to the contact and said, "Hey, in case you're not aware of this, I'm really tight with Kobold Press, and I review their releases that come out in print. So I said, I'm sure people are expecting to see a review on the Gaming Gang for the starter set. Really would appreciate if I were able to get a copy." And this was what, month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. So it's coming out. I think it comes out next week. And on Monday, I got another canned email. It's like, "Oh, we've allocated all of our review copies." And okay, so and funny enough, you may recall around Christmas time, I got that box that I shared. We did a first look at. We opened it up and had all those goodies in there, including this mug that I have been drinking out of on live shows, kind of giving them a plug, right? And they gave me a beanie cap and miniatures and stuff like that. And that was for content creators, and it wasn't for all the content creators. It was just for a select few content creators. So somehow from Christmas to about 2 months ago, I went from being, "Wow, we really like this guy," to, "No, let's not send him anything." So I emailed my contact and I said, "Oh, you know what? This is like the third straight request I put in that you're telling me you're not sending me a review copy." I said, "You might as well just take me off your press list." And they got back to me and they said, "Oh, well, we're really sorry." That same old, trying to cover your ass kind of email. It's like, "Well, when we get another wave of retail copies, maybe we could send you one." And I wrote back, I go, "No, that's okay. Just remove me from your press list." So Steamforged Games. Oh, well. Because, I'm one of these people where, if it's a small company, if it's a little independent company, I am more than happy to share news about stuff coming out. I don't expect them to send me stuff. The various different little creators, the independents out there who don't even do print, they only do PDFs. I'm happy to share news and stuff for them. I don't expect to receive anything. But I mean, come on. It's like, okay. So I reached out to Kobold Press just to let them know, because Kobold Press Has nothing to do with it. They're not selling it on, well, I mean, they licensed it so that Steamforged Games could do the starter set, but they're not selling it on their site or anything like that. So I did reach out to one of my contacts over at Kobold and just let them know. I said, hey, in case you're expecting to see a review from me about the starter set, it's not going to happen. And she wrote back, she's like, I can't believe it. Why would they not send you a copy? And I'm like, I don't know. Just letting you know. But yes, we did find out that More Prepared is, I think it just shipped out today. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, my contact at Kobold Press gave me a rundown of, okay, this is what's on the horizon, stuff like that. Because you might recall my review of The Old Margrave. They put in their newsletter. So I was like, oh, okay. All right. Anyway, so that, the audiobook. I'm a big Joe Abercrombie fan. I've listened to all the audiobooks of the first Law. I've listened to the standalone stuff. I listened to the second trilogy. So he's got a new series that launched. It came out yesterday called The Devils. And I was like, oh yeah, because I really like Joe Abercrombie as I get ready to sneeze, zoinks. So I was like super pumped. So I got it last night and I listen to audiobooks when I go to sleep. And I got it last night and I didn't end up going to sleep until like 4 a.m. So I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, knowing that I had to get out early this morning to go pick my mom up to take her to the doctor, but still. Yes. Sean O'Donnell says, love me some Joe Abercrombie. Yes. And this series is a little more humorous. As far as like the action scenes, now granted, I'm only like 3.5 hours in. And it's like 24 hours in length for the audiobook. Really good action. Yes. Not going to spoil anything. Not going to ruin the premise or anything like that. So my best friend Elliot Miller had started listening to The First Law. And I told him, hey, new book, Joe Abercrombie. I don't think he's finished. I don't think Elliot's finished the First Law trilogy, let alone the other stuff after it. But he's like, yeah, I got some Audible credits. I think I'll go get it. Keith McGrath says that their friends are going to buddy read The Devils in paperback. I used to do that in high school. Elliot and I used to do that with some of our friends too. And 24 hours, that's just a short story for Joe, says DB. Yeah, isn't it? Aren't they usually 26? Somewhere around there? I don't know. It's all I can tell you is listening to all of the First Law and the, I guess they consider it the second Law, the second trilogy. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They call it something of hate. But yes. Shondell says Elliot has to watch Mona every week or his clockwork winds down. Well, he is a Disney guy. I don't think he's watching that, though. So anyway, so there you go. That's what I wanted to share with you. So we will jump on in. We will tackle a few more questions here and kind of go from there. We'll wrap up in a little bit. So Matthew Perkins said they're a 5e YouTube person. Best marketing contact they've dealt with is Troll Lord Games. Wizards of the Coast was the worst experience. Yeah, you're telling me. I had to be extremely tricky to get a contact with them. And it'll all depend on what contact you have. So there is the contact. I think the team is still there. There's the team they have at Wizards of the Coast. And if that's your contact, lots of luck. Because how would I put it in that? I don't want to sound insulting. But what they usually do is they assign small fries to this, and then their PR company is who their more big names, I guess, go through. Kind of weird. Keith McGrath says, cool, you support small companies. Always have. We always have. In fact, when we were mainly board games, I personally shied away from like Fantasy Flight Games. Elliot was always trying to get Fantasy Flight Games titles. And he had more of a contact with their marketing guy at the time than I did, although he knew me. But no, I like Victory Point Games. If you've been hanging with the Gaming Gag for a long time, you know I started covering them when they were Ziploc baggy games. And by the time they sold to Tabletop Tycoon, they were producing games that looked like everything else that was on the market, made in China and things like that. So DB says, I think you missed something. You said there were two. One was Steamforged. Yes, I said the other one I'm not going to tell you yet, but I did lay down the story for you. And that wasn't Steamforged who I reached out to that said, oh, I contacted you. Check your spam folder. That was the other company. So like I said, I'm going to give them a few more days. And if it's just still crickets, then I'm going to just be like, no, sorry. And I will call them out publicly again and say, hey, you know what? I tried to get on board with you guys. Not interested. That's fine. Anyway, so that was that. I think Chris Leonard asked if I have any of the TSR era Dragon magazines. No, I have. Well, okay. So I do have the discs that have all of the Dragon magazines on them. Not a very good transfer job that was done. Well, although that was quite a while ago. No, I do not. I do not have a single issue of Dragon. None whatsoever. And it's kind of funny because I've had these discs forever. And now I, of course, transferred onto a hard drive. I never even actually gone and like really read through it. So, but I will say that as far as the digital transfer of them, the scans aren't real good. And this was the set that they sold. They used to sell this as a collection of Dragon, but no. You got to remember, everybody, if you're maybe fairly new to the channel, you may not realize this, but I was not a big D&D guy. I mean, that got me on board. I played some Dungeons and Dragons when I was in grammar school, played a little bit. Then we, of course, moved to AD&D. But by my sophomore year of high school, which would have been 82, 83, we had moved on. I mean, I was pretty much exclusively running Call of Cthulhu. So that's why I always talk about like the history of Dungeons and Dragons from 82 to late in the 4th edition run. I don't, I just know of things secondhand. But DB mentions White Dwarf. Yeah, that I picked up a ton of because I played, I played Epic, but I would pick up miniatures for Warhammer 40K, Warhammer Fantasy. I picked up the books that, not the splats necessarily. Although I did for Warhammer 40K for a while. This was back at a time when I just had disposable cash. So I'd be like, yep, it's Saturday. I'm going over to Emperor's headquarters on Irving Park Road in Chicago. And of course, I also played historical miniatures. I had a massive collection of 15 millimeter American Civil War minis that I had painted. And my buddy Ed Ruprecht and I would play. My buddy, sadly, we never actually see my buddy Ed Ruprecht pop in to chat. But we're still pals on Facebook and stuff. But I mean, it's been a few years since I saw him in person. W4 says, I think Internet Archive has all the dragon issues as well as the dungeon issues as well. I think you are correct. I think they are. Tessie Trekkie says, Jeff was starting high school the year I got squeezed out of my mother. I feel so young. Yeah, well, too bad you don't have the wisdom I do. I couldn't even finish that without laughing. Right. Somebody asked if I was still playing Grit. I have not actually played Grit. That's something else. If you're relatively new, to the channel and to the gaming gang, got to keep in mind, reviewers. Now, board games, yes, I play board games. My rule is 3 plays before I do a review. Now, because it's so difficult for us to get together with the gang, I have segued away from board games because I feel bad if I've got something sitting here waiting for a review that, I am not a person who's just going to sit there and read the rules to a board game and then share a review. And that happens a lot out there, folks. Don't think for 1 minute it don't. It does. I have had game designers tell me that they knew for a fact that XYZ reviewer never played their game because sometimes some of the things that they would bring up in the review wasn't in the game at all. So it's like, yeah, I guess that would be, I guess. So Sean Donald says, Jeff needs more playing time, y'all. Hey, I invited Sean to game with us, but he told us to go take a hike. So it's like, all right. But anyway, so like for role-playing games, I have been around the hobby and I've run role-playing games for long enough that for the most part, I don't have to run a role-playing game to give you an idea of what it's going to be like at the game table. I don't need to run an adventure to tell you how I believe it's going to run at the game table. Now, also I want to keep in mind, when I talk about an adventure, I'm thinking of the players that I have run role-playing games for. So I have lucked out. I have not had, some super oddball people who were regulars at my game table. I have had a couple of oddballs, but they were only there once. Charnel says, I never said no. He's throwing me under the bus. Yes, it's got the little mushroom man on the cover. So, if you're curious about Grit, DB says, but do you sell Grit? Get great prizes? I remember that from the comics. Okay, something else. This will be the last thing that we tackle tonight. Like I said, sometimes our episodes are just going to be shooting the shit for the most part, right? So I've actually started rewatching old MST3K episodes. And I could not believe, I'm in season 4 now. So what I'll normally do, I'll throw one on as I'm working on the news, or if I'm writing up something for like a game article, a news article, stuff like that. So I have it on, so I'm not just sitting there in silence. And it's funny because they refer to grit quite often, at least in the Joel years. And I was talking to Elliot today because Elliot watches I think it's a Pluto channel that just reruns MST3K episodes, but they only have so many because he works from home and he just has it on like in background noise. So I said to him, I said, why don't you just watch it on YouTube? Because now they've got like a 24-hour stream of MST3K on the MST3K YouTube channel. So anyway, I was talking to him today because I forgot to tell him I've been rewatching all these. And I said, I can't believe how many drug references they made. I didn't remember that. I was like, really? I was like, whoa. I was like, wow, that's pretty. Plus, it's also really bizarre to see where it's like, oh, this episode's 34 years old. It's like, holy cow. It's like, wow. Anyway, so yeah, so the joke about grit, it was funny because I think there's been at least one reference every season to selling grit. Pete Strakowitz says they love the art in Grit, the role-playing game, not the old magazine or newsletter or whatever the hell it was supposed to be. Also, the layout is sweet, super inspiring for those who want to create their own role-playing game. Keith McGrath says, I want to play Grit on summer vacation with the kids and their family. I think they would like it. And if you haven't seen my review, that's kind of the summary I gave it. In fact, the reality is I wish there were rules in it for character advancement, but there really aren't. The rules are the characters get better by way of their equipment, which is fine, which is cool. But it's really designed, and it's specifically mentioned in the book too, that it's designed for one-shots and real short campaigns. But I had the impression reading through it, and that's why I gave it a pretty positive review. I thought it would be a blast. I really did. I really thought it would be an absolute blast to play. And it would make for a really good introduction to not little kids, but, the tweens and up, as well as people who might be curious about a role-playing game, adults, right? But, you don't want to saddle them with like, okay, well, we're going to play Pathfinder 2nd Edition, so let me explain the 3-action economy with you. It'd be like glazed. I think that would do it really, really well. Sean O'Donnell says it definitely accomplishes what it sets out to do. I completely agree. It has, I don't want to say a laser focus, but it does have a specific focus, a certain kind of adventure and a certain sort of approach that I definitely really like. I also wanted to go back to the comments about dealing with Troll Lord Games. Yeah, Troll Lord Games, fantastic. They are awesome. Weirdly enough, I got to reach out to them again because I'm ready to share my review of The Hermit, and that will be it as far as stuff that I've got to review from Troll Lord Games. And they have released some stuff recently. So I will see what's happening. I will reach out to one of my two or both of my contacts with Troll Lord Games. I mentioned them last night when we were talking about the woke mob has not ruined your favorite role-playing game, which I had to laugh. There's been some negative comments. One was completely asinine. I'm not going to get into it, but if you take a peek, you'll see I responded to it. But I was kind of like, talking about people have accused Troll Lord Games of being woke. Now, I'm not accusing Troll Lord Games of being, extremely right-wing or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, the fine folks over at Troll Lord Games, you would never sit there and go, oh, these people are woke. It's like, first of all, I personally would never say that about anybody because we talked about this last night. The vast majority of people who use the term woke have absolutely no fucking idea what it means. That it's just a derogatory term, which is not what the term meant. Robert Santon asked, did you ever look at mazes? Yes, I reviewed mazes from 9th level games. Yep, go back, take a look. I did review it quite a while ago. In fact, I reviewed the set that was the little books. Another fantasy role-playing game that I feel would make for a really good introduction to RPGs, fantasy RPGs, for both younger players and adults who are kind of curious that you don't want to shackle them with, let me explain GURPS to you. TV says they're coming to your neighborhood to ruin your games. Sincerely, Woke Mob. Here we come, walking down the street. Sharon O'Donnell had to inflict Kobolds ate my baby upon the family and friends. That uses isn't it called the polymorph system? Where you've got the different dice. A lot of the 9th level games releases use that. And super easy to get into. Yep. As Sean O'Donnell says, yep, it's the polymorph. All right, everybody. That is it for tonight's show. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, thank you kindly. Because not only are you keeping me company, but you're also keeping each other company, especially while I'm sitting there reading through the news. Or if I'm going off on a topic. I almost said rant, but no, not really. It's not really a rant. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very kindly for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,200 videos here on the channel. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Will not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. I'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of the Pendragon Game Master's Handbook from Chaosium Inc. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you'd like to support the Gaming Gang, we do have a Patreon. You'll find the link to that in the show notes. And if you'd like to hang with the gang over on Discord, we do have a Discord server, and the invite link is also in the show notes. All right, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.